Hey everybody, this is Rykard here again, and welcome to the first edition of a new series that I'm starting known as Pokemon Teams. Now this series is basically going to be showcasing a variety of different teams that serve unique purposes other than a standard team that you would normally build. So it's going to be pretty much featuring a lot of unique ideas similar to the Pokemon sets videos, but for an entire team of 6 different Pokemon. So in the first video that I wanted to do for this series, I'm going to be doing an OU team, but comprised entirely of NU Pokemon. So as you can see from this image right here, I have the 6 Pokemon on this team, which are Weezing, Probopass, Seismitoad, Primeape, Gardevoir, and Tauros. And I'll be going through each one of these Pokemon, talking about EVs and stats like I normally do in the sets videos, but more in a team-related environment. So let's kick things off by taking a look at the Weezing that I made for this team. So before I even get into the set that I picked for Weezing on this team, I just kind of wanted to talk about why I chose it, and the main reason is that Weezing is an absolutely amazing physical wall. This Pokemon can take physical hits extremely well due to its naturally high physical bulk. It also has access to Will-O-Wisp to burn things, and being a poison type with Levitate, it only has one weakness, which is to that of psychic moves, while also resisting one of the most commonly seen attacking types in the OU tier, which is that of fighting. But for this set, we're going to start by giving Weezing a bold nature to increase its physical defense and lower its physical attack, and then for the ability we're going to be going with Levitate. As for the EVs, we're going to put 252 into our HP to max that out, 168 EVs into our defense, and then 88 EVs into our speed to give us our max physical bulk possible, while also giving us enough speed to outspeed a 0 speed invested Sizer, which is something that is commonly seen on banded sets and also maybe defensive ones as well. So this is something to keep in mind, meaning that Weezing will be faster than Sizers if they are running no speed investment. And for the item, we're going to be going with Black Sludge on this set to recover a little bit of HP every turn. For the moves, we're going to start by giving it Will-O-Wisp to allow it to burn things, which is obviously extremely important, not only to provide you with the chance to take physical hits a lot better, but also allow your team to take physical hits a lot better once your opponent is burned. We're also going to go with Flamethrower as a way to deal solid damage to a lot of the commonly seen steel types in the OU tier, such as Sizer and Ferrothorn and what's the other one? Forretress. Also, we're going to be going with Clear Smog on this set to allow us to remove any stat boosts that our opponent might accumulate throughout the battle, which is very important against a lot of Pokemon that like to set up, which are normally pretty slow, like Reuniclus, even though you are weak to psychic moves, but you can still remove the boosts, and also Conkeldurr, which also like to set up with bulk ups, and you can pretty much wall the crap out of Conkeldurr with this set just because Clear Smog erases all the stat increases that it gets, along with the fact that you resist the fighting moves. And the last move on this set is going to be Pain Split as a way to recover HP and give it some more survivability throughout the course of the battle. As for Probopass, some of the main reasons why I chose this Pokemon for this team is that it is a Steel type, meaning that it will be able to take Dragon type moves very well. It has ridiculously high physical and special defense, which is amazing for being able to take hits from both sides of the spectrum, and it also has the very unique Magnet Pull ability, which allows it to trap Steel types and potentially kill them within the given time that they are trapped. But for the entire set on this Probopass, we're going to start by giving it a Calm Nature to increase its special defense but lower its physical attack, and for the ability we are going to be running Magnet Pull. For the EVs though, we're going to put 252 into our HP to max that out, 200 EVs into our defense, and then 56 EVs into our special defense to give us some nice well-rounded bulk to allow us to take hits from both sides of the spectrum. And for the item, we're going to be going with Leftovers. As for the moves on this set though, this one is a little bit unique and it helps in a ton of different situations, especially in the OU tier. So we're first going to start by giving Probopass Substitute, because this is a move that you could effectively use on any set for Probopass that is trapping a Steel type, namely Ferrothorn or Forretress, because you could generally walk out of a situation with a sub up after KOing the opponent, allowing you to use another move on your set to take advantage of your opponent's team. But once you have a sub up, you have a lot of options. The first of which is to go for Sunny Day. And Sunny Day is amazing for any team in OU because of the fact that Sunny Day will cancel out any other weather other than sun. And for purposes of this team, sun really isn't that big of a deal, and you can actually benefit from it in another way, which I will talk about later when I get to another Pokemon. So Sunny Day is great for canceling out weather, and it will also boost the power of your Hidden Power Fires on the set because it'll allow you to do even more damage with them with the sun up, allowing you to KO steel types that you might have trapped even faster. And for the last move on the set, we're going to be going with Thunder Wave as a way to slow down our opponents, cripple them, and hopefully make them get fully paralyzed for a turn, meaning that they won't even be able to attack. And this is very useful because of the fact that a lot of the NU Pokemon on this team aren't incredibly fast, so having Thunder Wave to support the team, making your opponent slower, is very useful in any facet of any battle that you might run into when using this team. As far as Seismitoad is concerned, I wanted a Pokemon that was going to be able to set up entry hazards and also be able to deal pretty well with a lot of rain teams that you might run into. So Seismitoad, having the water absorb ability and also being a ground type, makes it immune to water attacks and also potential thunders that might be coming from your opponent's team, and effectively walls the crap out of Rotom Wash because pretty much it cannot touch this Pokemon because of its immunities. But as for the entire set, we're going to start by giving Seismitoad a Calm Nature to increase its special defense but lower its physical attack. And then we're going to be giving it the Water Absorb ability to allow it to be immune to water moves and even gain health if you predict a water move and switch Seismitoad in on it. As for the EVs, we're going to put 216 EVs into our HP, 128 EVs into our physical defense, and 164 EVs into our special defense to give us some nice, well-rounded, mixed bulk to take hits from both sides of the spectrum. And for the item, we're going to be going with Leftovers as a way to recover a little bit of HP at the end of every turn. And for the moves on this set, we're going to start by giving it Stealth Rock as a way to set up entry hazards to be in effect for basically the entirety of the battle, hopefully, and obviously cripple things such as Dragonite, which will want to switch in and keep their multi-scale abilities, so definitely having Stealth Rock is a really good idea. And for the other moves on this set, we're going to go with Scald, which is going to be your main water stab move, also has a 30% chance to burn, which is really nice when that occurs. Earth Power as a way to hit really hard with your ground type stab, and then Toxic as a way to potentially wear down other walls on your opponent's team. Now, also this is really good for Pokemon that you don't want to burn with Scald because you have another way of statusing them. So overall, Seismitoad is just a really great Pokemon to have just because of its typing and ability, and also the fact that it can Toxic Stall and set up entry hazards. And this Pokemon has definitely been incredibly useful in all the battles that I've had with it. Moving on to the more offensive portion of my team, I chose Primate for this team mainly because you pretty much need a fighting type in OU due to all the steel types that you run into, and also as a way to take out Blissies if your opponent has one on their team. And Primate, since its recent move to the NU tier, has done amazing work for me on any team that I've used it on, so it was a must for this team because it is one of my favorite fighting types to use. So to start for this set, it's a pretty standard Primate set, but we're going to give it a Jolly Nature to increase its speed but lower its special attack, and we're going to be running the ability Vital Spirit to potentially allow it to switch in on any sleep-inducing Pokemon because you would obviously be immune to it with your Vital Spirit ability. As for the EVs, we're going to put 252 into our physical attack, 4 for our defense, and then 252 EVs into our speed to give us our max speed and max physical attack possible with the Jolly Nature. And for the item, we're going to be going with a Choice Scarf to make this Pokemon even faster and allow it to outspeed a ton of things in the OU tier and hit really hard with its moves. And for those moves, we're going to start by obviously giving it Close Combat as a way to basically be your strongest stab move. You can't really go wrong with this move. It's going to do a ton of damage to anything that doesn't resist it, which is fantastic. For the other moves on this set, though, to round it off, we're going to be going with Stone Edge as a way to deal some more super effective damage throughout the tier. Ice Punch, which is especially useful for countering Gliscors, which will want to obviously come in and take your close combats extremely well. And also U-Turn as a way to scout and move around throughout battle if you predict your opponent to switch, as well as having super effective move against Psychic types and Dark types and all the other types that Bug types are very good for dealing damage against. But overall, this Pokemon is just a very speedy and powerful physical attacker with the added utility of being able to U-turn to scout for purposes of giving you a advantageous switch-in when in a battle against your opponent. As for Gardevoir, there are 3 main reasons for me picking this Pokemon for this team. The first of which is that it has a very high special attacking stat, which comes in handy in a number of situations, allowing Gardevoir to basically deal a ton of special damage to your opponent's team. Another reason is that it has a very high special defense stat as well, meaning that even though I'm not EVing it in a defensive manner at all, it can still take a special hit or two if I need something on my team to. And lastly, its ability Trace is extremely useful in the OU tier. There are so many reasons for why this ability is amazing, but just to name a couple, the first of which is that you can trace immunities, such as Heatran's Flash Fire ability, meaning that you can just switch Gardevoir in on Heatran, take a Flash Fire, or get the Flash Fire ability, and then be immune to its fire moves, meaning that it pretty much won't be able to do that much damage to you. Another really great thing about Trace is that you can trace Chlorophyll, which is amazing against any Sun team because it will allow Gardevoir to effectively become incredibly fast. The most common Chlorophyll user on a Sun team is Venusaur, and since they don't typically run max speed because they have the Chlorophyll ability, you will actually be able to trace Chlorophyll and then outspeed Venusaur on the following turn and KO it extremely easily with one of your Psychic type moves. So those are just some of the reasons why I think Trace is amazing. But for this set, we're going to start by giving it a Timid Nature to increase speed and lower its physical attack, and then obviously we're going to be going with the ability Trace. For the EVs though, we're going to put 252 into our special attack to max that out, 4 for a special defense, and then 252 EVs into our speed to max that out as well, along with giving Gardevoir the item Leftovers to allow it to recover a little bit of HP every turn to survive just a bit longer in battle, especially because of the traceability being so useful. But for the moves on the set, we're going to start by giving it Psyshock, which is a move that obviously is a special attacking move that hits the physical defense. Now, because the multiple Pokemon in this tier that are weak to Psychic are naturally specially defensive, I figured Psyshock would be a better option to deal really good damage to a Pokemon like Tentacruel or a Pokemon like Terrakion in the sand because it has the special defense boost because it's a rock type. Also, it allows you to do a good solid 30% or so to Blissey, which would normally be able to take Psychic extremely well. As for the other moves on the set, though, we're going to be going with Focus Blast to give it some really good type coverage, especially against Steel types and Dark types, which you are weak to. Thunderbolt as a way to be really useful against a lot of rain teams that you might run into, since that deals super effective damage against water types. And then Signal Beam as the last move on this set to allow you to hit Psychic types and Dark types super effectively, as well as dealing 4 times damage to Celebi, which is a very commonly seen Pokemon in the OU tier. But overall, Gardevoir has been one of the MVPs of this team in the battles that I've had with it, and it's just so incredibly useful because of that trace ability. And last but not least, we have Tauros, which is pretty much the MVP of this team. This Pokemon is absolutely incredible. It has so much attack power behind its moves, it has so much type coverage on its moves, and it is possibly one of the most effective wall breakers I have found in the OU tier, regardless of the fact that it is an NU Pokemon. But to talk about it just a little bit, we're going to start by giving it a Hasty Nature to increase your speed but lower your physical defense, and for the ability we're going to be going with Sheer Force. As the EVs, we're going to put 164 into our physical attack, 92 into our special attack, and then 252 EVs into our speed to give us its max speed possible while mixing its attacking stats, because this is going to be a mixed attacking Tauros. And for the item on this set, we're going to be going with a Life Orb to give us some more power to all of our moves and also work in combination with the Sheer Force ability, since we do not take Life or Recoil while also getting the bonus of Life Orb on any of the moves on this set except for Earthquake. But for the moves, we're going to start by giving it Rock Climb, which is pretty much the strongest normal type move you can give Tauros. It is a little bit inaccurate, but if you wanted to go with Return, you would take the Life Orb Recoil, which is something that I did not want to do, so I went for full power with a little bit of inaccuracy in Rock Climb. Along with that, we're going to be going with Earthquake, as I said before, as a way to deal some incredible damage to a lot of common Pokemon that you see, such as Heatran and Tentacruel and others that you might run into that are weak to ground moves in the OU tier. And now for the more exciting moves on the set, which are a little bit less commonly seen on Tauros, we're going to be going with Fire Blast as a way to completely cripple a lot of the Steel types that you run into in this tier, namely Ferrothorn, Scizor, Metagross, a ton of other Pokemon that are normally not expecting Tauros to be packing a fire move that is boosted by both Sheer Force and a Life Orb. And Fire Blast completely trucks through these guys. It's absolutely amazing to have on this Pokemon because of the numerous types that are weak to fire in the OU tier. And lastly, on this team, or on this moveset, sorry, we're going to be going with Ice Beam as a way to allow you to deal some really good damage to a lot of dragon types, as well as Pokemon like Landorus and Gliscor that you might run into in the tier. And the reason why it's so useful, especially against Landorus and Gliscor, is that they're typically physical walls that'll want to come in, either intimidate you in Landorus's case or the Therian version, or just like protect stall all day while dealing some damage like Gliscor because of Poison Heal. But Ice Beam completely one-shots them, and a Pokemon that would normally want to come in to take a physical hit is no longer even a factor because of having Ice Beam on the set. And this is absolutely amazing for Tauros. It is such a great wall breaker, as I said before. And also, it has a base 110 speed stat, meaning that if any Pokemon, such as Gengar that you can normally run into, or Latios, are running a hidden power fire, you will be faster than them and won't even have to worry about the speed tie since we aren't using any weird IVs for the set. Also, it allows you to pretty much outspeed a ton of Pokemon in this tier, namely, Infernape, Terrakion, all of the horse things. Tauros is just amazing for this team. It's the best physical attacker on this team and has done a ton of damage in every single match that I've had when using this team. So moving on to the weaknesses and resistances of this team, I just basically wanted to show you how this team is so defensively sound that it is able to resist every single type in the game while minimizing its weaknesses. Now it is important to note that this team builder does not take into account the abilities that a Pokemon might have. So even though it says I have nothing that is resisting ground and water, you obviously know that that is not true because of Weezing having the Levitate ability and Seismitoad having the Water Absorb ability. And within just those three defensive Pokemon alone, which are Weezing, Probopass, and Seismitoad, I resist every single type in the game, and these three also have amazing synergy together as well, which is extremely important, especially in a tier where you're going to be blown out by the attack power that comes from most of the OU Pokemon. The only two things on this team, or the only two big weaknesses that I have with this team are to fighting and psychic, because two Pokemon are weak to fighting and two Pokemon are weak to psychic. Now, this has never been too big of a problem because of Weezing just completely destroying all attempts at a fighting type setting up and sweeping, and also Gardevoir just being able to take psychic moves very well while also having Primeape to U-turn on a lot of them and force them out. Sorry about that, I just hit my mic. So that has never been too big of a problem, but I just wanted to kind of show you guys how little this team is actually weak to and how great it is able to take hits from pretty much any type in the game, as you can see here. So at this point, a lot of you are probably wondering, well, can we see this team in action? Well, I actually made a slide here dedicated to seeing this team in action. So if you want to click any of the Pokeballs, I have 4 different matches that you can all go check out and see this team in action in OU matches. Also, I am advertising my Twitch channel right here. The team building series is something that I want to do on stream in the future and then make videos about, so if you want to follow me on Twitch, please do that. But as always, that is it for this video, everyone. So take care, goodbye, and I hope to see you next time.